You know we love to dig into these fascinating topics.
Absolutely.
And today we're tackling something that's got the whole world buzzing.
Literally.
ChatGPT, everybody.
Oh.
It's everywhere.
Yeah.
But there's so much mystery surrounding it. Like, how does it actually work? What's going on in its digital brain?
Yeah, what's it actually learning from?
Right. All these wild theories flying around.
Mm-hmm.
Some people are saying it's like secretly watching YouTube videos.
I've heard that.
Learning how to, cook or fix a car. But to get to the bottom of this, we got to look at the facts, the hard data,
Absolutely.
the training data.
Yeah.
That's where it all starts, right?
It's the foundation.
Exactly.
It's like the foundation of a house.
So you sent me some really interesting research on this. An article breaking down exactly what kind of data ChatGPT was and wasn't trained on.
Yeah, this is a big one.
Ready to jump in?
Let's do it.
All right, so first off, this article makes it clear ChatGPT isn't just pulling from one source. It's using a mix of publicly available data and licensed data.
Right, a whole blend.
We're talking about a massive amount of information. I mean, we're talking books, websites.
Of course.
Obviously, Wikipedia's got to be in there somewhere.
Yeah, you can't not have Wikipedia.
But also research papers and even code repositories.
That's interesting.
Pulling from everywhere.
It's got to learn somehow, right?
It's crazy.
Yeah.
So why this mix? Why not just stick to, one type of data?
Well, it needs that range to really develop a solid understanding of language.
Okay.
Think about it like this, the public data, things like blog posts, news articles,
Oh, yeah.
even those Reddit threads that go on forever.
Oh, yeah, the rabbit holes.
That gives ChatGPT a grasp on everyday conversation,
Yeah.
how we use language in different situations.
It's like learning from the real world, right?
Exactly.
The messy, unfiltered version.
Exactly. But then on the flip side, you've got the license data,
Okay.
which is probably going to be more structured, more quality controlled.
Right. Makes sense.
So that could be things like textbooks, specialized databases, collections of literature.
So it needs both the casual and the formal
Exactly. It's got to have the full spectrum.
to really master language.
Right.
That's fascinating. But hold on a second. If it's learning from code repositories,
Mm-hmm.
does that mean it might be better at writing code than, say, writing a poem?
That's a great question, and honestly, it's certainly possible. The type of data it's trained on definitely influences its strengths. Think of it this way. If you spend years and years reading legal documents,
Oh, yeah.
you're probably going to be pretty good at writing them yourself,
You'd hope so.
but you might not be the best songwriter. It's kind of the same idea with these language models.
That's a great analogy.
Okay.
Okay, so we've talked about what ChatGPT is trained on, but what about the stuff it's not allowed to learn from?
The forbidden knowledge.
Right. This article specifically mentions a not trained on section. What's the deal there?
Well, first off, they exclude any proprietary data, anything that
Fair.
would be considered private. I mean, think about it. You wouldn't want ChatGPT having access to your personal emails
Oh, no,
or your financial record.
definitely not. That's a relief.
So there are also legal reasons, of course. They got to be super careful about using copyrighted material without permission.
Makes sense.
But beyond the legal stuff and the privacy concerns, there's also the bigger question of how much access do we want AI to have?
Whoa.
It's a debate that's only going to get more intense as these models become more powerful.
Yeah, it's not just about what they can learn. It's about what we want them to learn.
Exactly.
So speaking of things people wonder about, this whole idea of ChatGPT secretly devouring YouTube videos
Right, the big question.
in its spare time. Does this debunk that theory?
Well, the article actually addresses that head on.
Okay.
It says YouTube videos themselves are not part of the training data.
Yeah.
Unless they were available as a public transcript somewhere else.
Oh, interesting.
So it might indirectly learn from YouTube content if there are accurate transcripts floating around.
So it's not watching the videos, but it might be reading the subtitles.
Exactly. It's a subtle but important distinction.
That is really interesting.
And it raises some questions about those transcripts.
Like what?
How accurate are they? Because they're often generated automatically. Or by people who could make mistakes.
Oh, so the information ChatGPT gets from them
Mm-hmm.
might be totally flawed,
It's like a giant game of telephone.
with potentially huge data sets.
Exactly. A lot of room for error.
Wow. So what are the big takeaways here?
First, ChatGPT's training data is incredibly complex. It's this mix of public and licensed data, all carefully curated, to create a model that can understand and generate human-like text. And second, while transparency is super important, there are still some gray areas where it's really hard to know exactly what went into the training process.
It really makes you think. as AI gets more and more sophisticated, how will we be able to track where it's getting its information from?
Yeah, it's a big question for the future.
Something to ponder, for sure. And that's our deep dive for today. Thanks for joining us. Keep those questions coming, and we'll keep digging for answers.
Always.
Until next time.